Hello, friends. This is Thaddeus from Going Nerdy, and some of you may have heard, it was a small thing, but George Lucas has recently come out and supported Bob Iger as continuing to be president of Disney. Now, for those of you who don't know, there's been kind of like, Disney's gone through some tough times. They've made some less than successful films, and they have not been as well received as they would like them to be, which totally makes sense. When you make bad movies, people aren't going to watch them. Just recently, Disney has been struggling financially. That's not sarcasm, that's like a legit thing. And one of the things that has been going on is that some people are trying to take over the board at Disney. There's a fight right now and on the Disney board, and Bob Iger's position as CEO of Disney is in jeopardy, right? Now, one of the things that people are doing they're debating on whether or not they should back this new guy. His name's Nelson Peltz, or they should back Bob Iger. And George Lucas came out and said he believes that Bob Iger is the way to go. The Wall Street Journal came out and he quoted him. Vanity Fair, I think, did it as well. And he says that all of his substantial shares are going to support Bob Iger. Now, whether you agree with the statement or not, whether you view the statement as correct or not, there's probably some things you need to know. Just recently, Bob Iger has received support from some pretty important people. One of those people is named Jamie Dimon. He's the guy, head chair of JP Morgan and Chase. He's pretty wealthy. But as I was watching a video just today over on Valiant Renegade's channel, he pointed out that it's very possible that Jamie Dimon, who backs Bob Iger, is connected to someone else who's connected to George Lucas. And that is George Lucas's wife. And George Lucas's wife and Jamie Dimon are on the same board of directors. And so they're thinking, the argument is that, George Lucas was not coerced into backing Bob Iger, but his wife's like, hey, this is who we should go with. And he's like, all right, fine, whatever. Now, the real question, why would he do that? Right? Now, I want to play a clip, and a few clips, actually. And this was from an interview with George Lucas shortly after he sold, right? I'm not going to play the whole interview. The whole interview is 54 minutes. It was on the Charlie Rose show. Charlie Rose, I believe Charlie Rose was a person. He's still a person, I think. He might be dead. I don't know. They both look pretty old. But let's go ahead and just watch. So they're talking about what happened after the sale of Star Wars to Disney.
Stories, and they said, we want to make something for the fans. So I said, all I wanted to do was tell a story of what happened. It started here and it went there. And it's all about generations, and it's about, the issues of fathers and sons and grandfathers, and it's a family soap opera.
Right. So he's telling us what the story was. He's telling us that Star Wars is all about family. It's about connection. It's about love and loss. It's a soap opera, right? It's dramatic, and we call it a space opera because it takes place in space, but it is a soap opera akin to Days of Our Lives and General Hospital, right? There's witches, there's demonic possessions, there's the light side and the dark side. Usually, and this is just me saying this because I watched Days of Our Lives for a long time, usually it's the women that are pretty ruthless, right? The men, the younger men can be ruthless too. The older men are just wise. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've watched Days of Our Lives. But let's continue on.
Ultimately, we call it space opera, but people don't realize it's actually a soap opera. And it's all about family problems and it's not about spaceships. So they decided they didn't want to use those stories. They decided they were going to go do their own thing. And so I decided, fine, But basically, I'm not going to try to, they weren't that keen to have me involved anyway. But at the same time, I said, I'm not going to, if I get in there, I'm just going to cause trouble because they're not going to do what I want them to do. So I don't have the control to do that anymore. And all I would do is fuck everything up. So,
pause that at the right time. He said muck everything up. Now, I want to point this out here. So when he's saying they, he's talking about Kathleen Kennedy, Bob Iger, the people, the directors in charge, the creatives in charge. They were like, we don't want to tell your stories. And we told you we did. We told you we wanted to tell your stories. No, we don't. And we're good. We're good. And he's like, look, I don't have the creative control. And if I were to go over there and be involved in it, I would lose hope. I would need a new hope. And he's lost that hope. He's lost that control. So let's continue.
Oh, I said, okay, I will go my way and I'll let them go their way. And it really does come down to a simple rule of life, which is when you break up with somebody, the first rule is no phone calls. The second,
no late night drunk text. Hey, look, Jar Jar was really a Sith Lord. Hey, look, Luke and Leia, whatever. Hey, look, he's like, look, that's not, you got to cut it off. You got to rip the Band-Aid off completely. And to be honest, he's right. Like if you look at 7, 8, and 9, if you look at all of the movies that came out, 7, 8, 9, possibly the worst received, obviously, no George Lucas connection, right? Solo, there was a little bit, but very little. Rogue One, I think he had some connection in Rogue One. He worked with some people there. So he had a little bit of input, not a ton, but a little bit. Now, mostly Rogue One because they had a very narrow moment of story to define. They couldn't run around with it. But if you look at the stuff that he has had control with or connection to, Star Wars Rebels, Season 7 of the Clone Wars, The Bad Batch, even Andor, he's had some connection. The first couple of seasons with The Mandalorian, he has been connected with these shows. Season 3, I think he, again, washed his hands. Not entirely sure. But he cut it off as much as he could. Now, this is, again, him going back and using his analogy here, going back and courting his ex-love. But in this sense, it'd be his child. I won't get into that. I'm just continue.
You don't go over to their house and drive by to see what they're doing. The third one is you don't show up at their coffee shop or the thing with your hair printed. You just say, no, gone, history, I'm moving forward. Because every time you do, and we all learn this from experience, every time you do something like that, you're opening the wound again.
Yeah.
And it just makes it harder for you.
Like this is a really, really painful thing for him, right? It's a challenge, right? He doesn't want to reconnect with these things, but he has. That's the important thing to take away here.
You have to put it behind you, and it's a very, very, very hard thing to do. But you have to just cut it off and say, okay, end the ballgame. I got to move on. And everything in your body says, don't, you can't. And these are my kids. So
all those Star Wars films.
All the Star Wars films.
They were your kids.
Yeah, well, they are, right? I loved them. I created them. I'm very intimately involved in them. And obviously
you sold them.
I sold them to the white slavers that take these things and
okay, but having said all that and having talked to you.
Okay, so again, he's taking his kids. This is a man who has seller's remorse, right? He's feeling guilty. And so the people that are out there who are like, George Lucas is, he's doing this thing. He's backing Bob Iger because he's only in it for the money. This is not a man who's only in it for the money, right? This is not a man who look at that face. There's heartache in that face. There is pain in that face. He does not like what they have done to Star Wars. He doesn't. Let's keep going, though.
You for the last, and known you for a while and admired you. I mean, it must hurt. Well, look, it's your family. It's the last story. It's your story.
But it's
you.
But I knew there's 3 more stories. And I knew that was going to probably take, to do it right would take about 10 years. And I said, I'm 70. I don't know whether I'll be here when I'm 80. Every 10 years, the odds get less. And so I said, and I'm not ready to do that because I want to do these other things. So I have to make the decision on my own that it's time for me to move on.
Now, here's another thing. The actual statement from George Lucas is, so first off, he sold this in 2012. It's been 10 years. He's still around. He's still kicking. He's in his 80s, right? Is he healthy? I mean, he's still living his life. I don't know. Old rich people, they tend to live forever. But this is what he said. The quote, and this is a fascinating one. Creating magic is not for amateurs. When I sold Lucas just over a decade ago, I was delighted to become a Disney shareholder because of my long-term admiration for its iconic brand and Bob Iger's leadership. Now, in 2012, that's a pretty fair estimate. Like they had done some great things leading up to 2012. So, I could totally see George Lucas feeling totally safe with Disney. This would make sense. When Bob Iger recently returned to the company during a difficult time, I was relieved. No one knows Disney better. I remain a significant shareholder because I have full faith and confidence in the power of Disney and Bob's track record of driving long-term value. I have voted all of my shares for Disney 12 directors and urge other shareholders to do the same. Why? This is the real question. Why? One of the big takeaways here in this statement is this right here. Creating magic is not for amateurs. No. I jumped over. I saw this over on Derek Anderson, and I've got to just point it out, right? He's talking about an article from Lucasfilm. Let me bring it up, right? This is on StarWars.com. It's called Legends of ILM Interview Light and Magic. Now, there is a moment of absolute, beauty, hilarity, And this is what it reads. It says, it's something when they're asking about how did it put together? How was it? And then it's something that could never happen again. Director and visual effects artist Joe Johnston tells StarWars.com. All of these different elements came together, some of which had to be created on the spot. They didn't exist, like the motion control. And there were these people, many of whom hadn't worked in film before, but they had a specific skill and a talent to do one thing. It was just something that came together at that moment in that time that could never have been repeated again. And we were all lucky to have been there. It's a beautiful sentiment. It's a beautiful sentiment. So then, why is George Lucas saying this? No, let us do something that I haven't done in a long time. Let's get the tinfoil hat out. Now, as you can see, I've gotten a little bit of a new hat. This was a Christmas gift from my daughter. Very thankful to her. Love the kid. It's a cowboy hat, right? It's gonna have some. It's a work in progress for sure. Why did George Lucas do this? Now, to answer that question, we actually have to look at some of the other rumors that we've seen from Star Wars over the last few months. One thing that I absolutely love is my future leader and ruler of the earth, DVD overlord. And to say that he's upset about George Lucas is an understatement. And he feels betrayed, like many Star Wars fans do. But look at some of the things that he's done in the past. Cancel culture is coming to trash George Lucas, right? Are they canceling George Lucas? George Lucas poised to take revenge on Disney at last, multiple sources say. The Lucas strikes back. This was his post today, and he was angry. Disney in talks to sell Lucasfilm. This is 9 months ago, and George Lucas is the buyer. Major rumor updated with Cameron Pashaw. Now, these are all rumors, right? But you've got to understand that they actually have, according to them, an inside source, right? If they have an inside source And it's correct. The fact that Bob Iger is being backed by George Lucas doesn't necessarily mean that George Lucas is selling us out. Now, he might be selling out the greater Disney population, and I could see that. But if there's changes coming to Star Wars anyways, we know Kathleen Kennedy's on the way out. Like, we know that, right? But we've been knowing that for a long time. She has made a series of just terrible, terrible choices. And I have to believe that George Lucas, based on that white slavery comment, based on that, his feelings in the past, this is George Lucas's attempt to save his children, to save his baby. What is he doing? He's jumping in. He's taking his considerable wealth and he's saying, look, Bob Iger, you need help. You want my help? It will come at a cost. What's the cost? Star Wars. Now, if he backs Bob Iger keeps the company. Bob Iger stays as CEO and he keeps running the company into the ground. We do know that Bob Iger has come out multiple times recently and said, look, we're going to let the creatives be the creatives. We're going to take a hands off. This could be George Lucas's attempt to save his children, to save a connecting force. He has people in place that can make great Star Wars films. Look at the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. Andor was exceptional, right? And I don't know if people didn't like it or not. I loved it. I thought it was great. First 2 seasons of The Mando were phenomenal. 3rd season had some iffy parts, but still a fun romp. The Bad Batch has been enjoyable. It's bringing Thrawn back, Star Wars Rebels. It's lots of these things. Ahsoka, I enjoyed, but I can see why people were frustrated. Could this be George Lucas's attempt to save his baby? I think that it is. Doomcock, if you're listening, you have said over and over again that Kathleen Kennedy's on her way out. And I hope that's the case. I really do. I don't think that she has been good for Star Wars at all. But wouldn't this make sense for George Lucas to step in and try to save? He's not trying to kill Star Wars. He built it. These are his children. He's trying to save it. Now, I could be wrong and he could be selling us out. That's very possible. I could be wrong and he's only doing it for the money. That could be possible, right? Based on what his own words have said. It's very possible. It's very likely that he's dissatisfied with the film franchise. He's dissatisfied with the way that Luke and Leia and Han were treated. He's dissatisfied with his legacy. Because here's the thing, and this is the one thing that I think all of us can agree upon. When you're 80 and you're looking back at your life, you're asking yourself, what am I leaving behind? People messing with his legacy? Absolutely are. This is his attempt to save it. These are just my thoughts. Conspiracy theory, silver tinfoil hat on for a reason. Don't worry, it's going to get some adjustments. But what do you guys think? Am I close to the mark? Do you hope that I'm right? Or do you think that this is just the biggest betrayal ever? Leave a comment in the section below. Like, subscribe, share. This has been Thaddeus from Going Nerdy, and as always, my friends, smile and stay nerdy.